Hello everyone, my name is Robert Wylde, and I'm going to be doing a reaction video. This is not something I typically would do, but it's something I feel like I really need to do. For some context, not too long ago, I was recommended the Conan the Barbarian 1982 Nostalgia Critic review. It just sort of popped up in my feed, and I thought, okay, so it's one of the older Nostalgia Critic videos, and, you know, older Nostalgia Critic, at least in my mind, was a little more funny, a little less cringe, and terrible, but that's beside the point. I thought, okay, you know what, it's a video I haven't seen before. Maybe it's interesting. It's about Conan the Barbarian. I really like Conan the Barbarian. If you've watched my Dragon Hunter review, I make a reference to that. Actually makes a few Conan the Barbarian references, specifically with the music. In general, I love Conan. I love the cinematography. I love the sweeping vistas. I love the action. I love the drama. I love the operatic nature of the sets and the scale of these fights. I love how grounded all the action is. It's truly a classic film that keeps it simple, that keeps it straightforward, but does not lose any of that depth. So I figured I want to see what Doug has to say, and it's terrible. I'm not an angry person, but it's very rare that I watch something that genuinely fills me with rage. I really hate this video. I'm not even joking, just And that's what I'm going to be reacting to today, so get comfortable and whatever chair, lobby, coffee shop, couch, or whatever, the bar stool, car seat, I don't give a crap. Just get comfortable, because we're in for this ride together, and it's gonna be something. This is gonna be off the cuff. I don't have a script, I don't have notes, so if I seem a little rambly, if I seem like I'm going on like a diatribe, that's why. All right, so I guess we'll give this a little review.
We must all get ready now.
Before the time when Conan was known as a great warrior who battled the executive douchebags by leaving the Tonight Show so its glorious legacy could be preserved. P.S. You got balls. There was another Conan.
Yeah, I'm a big Conan fan. I'm gonna be straight. You kind of gotta make a Conan joke. It's not particularly clever, but yeah, it's not very funny. But it's also, you know, I don't mind it.
And played by then relative newcomer Arnold Schwarzenegger. I am the Nostalgia Critic, doing a parody of the great and powerful Mako, who stars alongside Arnold in these films. It is a time of high adventure, swords and sorcery, and great epic silliness. This is the Conan movies!
Now, before we get too far into the review, I kind of want to make something clear. There's a few different contexts you could view this whole video under. First, you can see this video as a review, which I personally do. He is the Nostalgia Critic. He is a critic. He does mostly film reviews. So in that case, I consider these reviews, even if they're more comedic. Another way we can look at this is as like a film riff or a parody or something like that. For those of you who are unaware, like a film riff is sort of like a roast. It's a big thing where you just tear into a movie, you tear into its problems, you tear into its stuff, the meat and potatoes of it, essentially. And the big problem with that is it's not really a criticism of the film. You're more or less just sort of making fun of it for the sake of it, and that's fine too. I think that that's something you can do, whatever. When you go into a riff and you're just tearing into a movie, you attack very obvious things that are, you know, funny. For instance, like in Star Wars parodies, you know, they'll attack certain objects that were out of place, which are a common thing in the original versions of Star Wars, with, you know, like the coat disappearing and the Jawas leaving. But in a movie review, you go over the acting, you go over the story elements and all those other things, and those are the things that Doug focuses on. And since that's the case, I'm going to consider this a review.
Large in scale, small on intelligence.
Okay, so one thing you're going to be noticing in this review, among all things, is that Doug is going to make a lot of comments toward the silliness in the movie, Yeah, there are a few little goofy moments in the movie, and the fact that Arnold is relatively new at acting doesn't really pair too well sometimes, but I think that just in general, the production team knew this, and Conan, for the most of the movie, doesn't actually say much. He's more of a man of action, and I think it balances out the movie in that way. It'd be interesting if Doug were to mention that. Spoilies! He doesn't bring this up.
The Conan movies were based off of the great stories written by Robert E. Howard. But from what I understand, they have almost nothing to do with these movies, so we will instead look at the films themselves. They are films before one-liners, before great explosions, and before dental work could fix that great big gap in between your teeth.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just looking for where the joke is. Don't mind me. I'm just gonna keep looking.
Prepare yourselves for phenomenal goofiness. Okay, I'm not gonna do that impression the whole time.
Thank God.
But we are gonna take a look at these movies. And our first film, Conan the Barbarian, starts off, oddly enough, with a Friedrich Nietzsche quote. Well, give him credit. I'm certainly gonna be telling myself that while watching this movie.
I'm gonna stop it right here, Doug. This quote, for people who actually watch and like this movie, is very important. But we'll get into that a little later.
Between the time when the ocean...
Made that joke already. Next. So we start off with Arnold Schwarzenegger as a little child. No, not that child!
Oh my God. Doug, Nope. Okay.
As his father gives him some helpful advice.
No one in this world can you trust. Not men, not women, not beasts. This you can trust.
Yeah, how about if your village is attacked by savage killers who outnumber you greatly and are so blood-hungry that even their dogs are dressed up in armor?
Okay, so this is sort of a big deal in the movie. Obviously, it is the origin of Conan, the writers of Doom, obviously led by Thulsa Doom, played by the brilliant James Earl Jones. This is a very important scene. In this scene, if Doug, had watched the movie, he would know that this is the scene where a very important concept called the Riddle of Steel comes up. The Riddle of Steel is a very important aspect of the movie because it ties into the thesis of what would be the Conan trilogy. And for those of you who don't really know, Conan was supposed to be a trilogy of 3 movies. Each movie was supposed to be an aspect of a sword, which is why in the beginning you see the forging of a sword. The first film was supposed to center around the steel of the sword. The second film was supposed to focus on wielding that steel and using it. The other was suffering from the consequences of those actions, facing the realities inflicted by that steel, which is why at the very end we have Conan sitting on a throne, bearing on a troubled brow the throne of Aquilonia. But that's neither here nor there. We're just gonna ignore the fact that Doug didn't watch the movie. For a guy with glasses, he sure didn't see shit.
I bet your trusty sword wouldn't do much there, would it? Maybe you should have considered that strength in numbers strategy.
We are the knights who say...
So as Conan's father is killed and the knights play Whack-A-Villager, his smoking hot mother tries to protect him from the evil James Earl Jones.
That's actually a joke I think is fine. She is really smoking. Like you could put that, if you put some bacon in a house with her, it would be fully smoked. She is very, very attractive. I think it's a valid joke. What? Credit where credit's due. I mean,
Well, gee, when you put it like that.
Okay, so a real quick criticism with his snake stuff. I'm just going to say when it comes to this snake part, there's some very subtle storytelling going on here, but we'll get into that a little later here.
So it looks like he's gonna leave her alone and let her fight another day. Psych! Have Hitler!
Yes, I enjoy taking a long time killing that person for no particular reason. I sure hope her son doesn't build up a vengeful rage and dedicate his life to destroying me while also working on his gigantically large pectoral muscles. Knock on wood.
So all the children from the village are forced into labor, which is strange because the men and women would obviously be much stronger and more valuable, but what do I know? Maybe they work for less.
I don't know, Doug. It's not like there's any place in the world right now where taking children and using them as labor or as soldiers is a thing. It's not like they make whole movies based off of this terrible reality.
But what do I know? And where exactly do they take these children? Yes, Conan, you will be spending the rest of your life pushing this wheel. Years and years of torturous mayhem will go by as you'll be asking yourself, why am I pushing this wheel? You will never get an answer to this question, however, it does seem that your muscles will spontaneously quadruple in size. All from pushing this relatively pointless but also very lovely wheel.
Okay, so the first thing is supposed to grind wheat, barley, that sort of thing. Essentially, this is a concept very similar to what is like galley slaves of early antiquity. Triremes used to have groups of people, literally just slaves, that they would just push the oars. They would beat a drum, and the people would push oars. And they would propel triremes or warships forward. And this is sort of a similar situation. They're taking the antiquity idea of enslaving people and putting them through manual labor to perform a very simple task, whether in real life it was just pushing and pulling oars to make a ship go forward or to stop it or turn it, to just grinding grain. And this is where the Friedrich Nietzsche quote comes in. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. As Conan is subjected to the wheel of pain, one by one, people die, leaving him alone to push the wheel more and more, but it does not kill him. Instead, it makes him stronger. So strong. It is actually, he's comically strong. Look at that man. He's got huge muscles because you're using all your muscle to push this thing. And of course, it would take all of your muscle to push this thing. This thing is incredibly large and difficult to push. So much so that they have competitions in real life with the Wheel of Pain. Look at this. Look at this thing. Look at this monster of a man. He is pushing that thing. It's not even grinding things. These wheels are like smooth. These wheels are smooth. They're just heavy. He's not even grinding grain. He doesn't even have the friction. It doesn't even have the friction that Conan has to work against. I just think that that's it's very interesting. But that's what's very important about the wheel is not only is it the beginning of Conan, but that idea of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger is ever present in this specific scene. But if Doug had seen the movie, he would have known that.
Sit here. Push wheel. Sit here. Push wheel? No, all I understand is wheels. Please, do you have a wheel? May I push it?
Oh, don't mind me. I'm still looking around for where the joke is. Oh, is this it? No, it's just stupid.
So Conan, I suppose, is bought and forced into fighting for money. And I guess all that wheel pushing paid off because even though he's never had any combat training, he's apparently a really good fighter. And keeps winning event after event.
Hold everything. Hold it. If you had just seen the movie, you would know that in this specific scene where Conan is thrusted into the gladiatory pit, he was completely outmatched. He gets beaten, tossed around, sliced up. He is almost completely outmatched. It's only when he gives in to his rage and fury. Once again, what does not kill him makes him stronger. That he overcomes his opponent and takes on the title of champion of the pit. But no, here's Doug. Here's the point that the movie's trying to give him. And there it goes. Doug, you gotta look for it. There's the point. Whoa, there it goes. Whoa.
He was taken to the east, a great prize. Language and writing were made available.
How to speak with an Austrian accent. This scroll is very informative.
But over time, Conan becomes angrier and angrier, and I guess his master is afraid that he might have created a monster.
Conan, what is best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women. That is good.
Very good, Conan. You get a gold star.
Thank you, sir. May I have a wheel now?
You shut up about the wheel!
Stop with the wheel jokes! Stop with the wheel jokes! For somebody who's making fun of a movie about wheel jokes, this joke seems to keep just coming around again and again and again.
So his master sets him free to wander aimlessly as he comes across some sort of burial site. Great, he's in the kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Alright, so, in the opening monologue, it's mentioned that in this land, which is called Hyboria, it's like a mythical time in history. This was a time when the oceans drank Atlantis, when Atlantis existed and was sunk beneath the ocean. This is a ruined temple of Atlantis. We know this by the symbols and oceanic markers on the sword. It is also called the Atlantean sword. So, I mean, that also sort of indicates where it's from.
Crom.
Ah yes, Crumb. Crumb, I suppose, is a warrior god who helped discover the invention of steel, and is also the winner of the God with the Stupidest Name competition.
I don't know, but for someone named after Quail Man, you're not really in a position to talk.
So after he grave robs beloved Crumb, he comes across a woman in the middle of the hills.
Okay, so a few things. That's not Crom. It isn't. He's not Crom. It is a Atlantean king. A part of this whole scene, once again, this whole movie is about the Friedrich Nietzsche quote and the riddle of steel. When he finds the sword, it is encased in the grime and rust of ages as it sat there in the hand of this dead king. The reason that the sword is so important. Later on in the movie, Thulsa Doom, the main antagonist of this story, puts forward and postulates that it is not steel that is important, as Conan's father mentions in the beginning, and rather it is flesh that is stronger. For what is a sword without a hand to wield it? This is where the philosophies start to sort of intermix, and this is why this is an important concept. Because somewhere the answer to the riddle of steel is in between relying on steel and relying on flesh, which we'll actually get into more later on in this video. But the whole point of this sword is that when Conan enters the chamber and he sees this dead Atlantean king sitting on a throne with the sword in his hand, the sword is unmarred essentially. It is covered in grime and cobwebs and dust, but it is still whole. It is still steel. It is still strong and capable. However, there's no hand to wield it. There's no one to give it purpose and meaning. His conviction to use it, his conviction to remove the years of dust and grime from its blade, to let it gleam once again in the light and to shine purpose onto it. That is what gives it purpose. It is his conviction which frees the sword. It is his conviction to wield it and to use it. There's more to this, but we'll continue diving deeper into that as we go on.
As it appears, she may have some information on the man who killed his family.
One who would crush the snakes of the earth.
Snakes? Did you say snakes?
Why did it have to be snakes?
But in order to find the treacherous villain, he needs some directions. Unfortunately, she tells him that there's a horrible price to pay. Bonking the living shit out of her. Oh, the horror!
Oh no, she's pulling me into Avatar. The visuals will be stunning, but the story will be absolute bullshit.
So after that, he comes across a thief named Subbatai, who says he can help him find James Earl Jones by traveling across the land.
Behold, we have reached Jerusalem. Wait, what?
Okay, so that's actually not filmed in Jerusalem. You clearly did enough research to know that these were based off of books and that the books and the movies don't really have much of a bearing on one another, but you didn't do enough research to know that this isn't in Jerusalem. It's actually filmed in Spain, near Madrid, and that's about right, yeah.
So they go into a few towns, get drunk, he punches a camel, that's nice, and they even come across another thief who joins them on their quest.
Ooh, I like to ask her for directions.
They're unfortunately captured, though, by King Osric, played by Max von Sydow. He, I suppose, has a task for them. He promises them riches if they can bring back his daughter who's been brainwashed by James Earl Jones. Conan dresses up in his silliest outfits and decides to fight Jones alone. He rides off into the wilderness and sets camp in some sort of Stonehenge ripoff. What? The horses just died with them? How the hell is that possible?
If Doug had just watched the movie, he would have known that while this was an army at one point, they have been placed deliberately in these places to ward off people from this location, to make it seem cursed and haunted. And you can even see in these shots the stuff tying them to poles and holding them up. I don't know, do you need a new pair of eyes? Are you blind? Do your eyes not work? And this is the thing. I mean, look at the video quality. It looks like I'm seeing the movie through smudged glasses.
Don't worry, Wilbur. We'll catch those bad guys. What? You dead? Oh, okay. I'll just stand here until starvation.
So it turns out James Earl Jones is the head of a brainwashing cult, which is pretty much like Burning Man if everybody dressed up like Tylenol.
Crucify him.
Too Jewish.
I get the joke, but it's been around for a long time. Yeah.
Forgive them, Crumb. They know not what they do.
Oh, to make things worse, he's nailed up right next to Eric Idle.
Always look on the light side of life.
But the other two thieves come to save him as they take him to a wizard who will try to bring him back to life. And wouldn't you know it, he's played by Mako. So he gives him a make-over.
Oh, oh, my soul's going. Oh, there he is. I've ascended. Oh.
As apparently this is supposed to bring him back to life somehow. Alright, what's an 8-letter word for an uncouth person in the Dark Ages? Begins with B. Anybody? Anybody, but begins with B. So Arnold Sudoku seems to work as Conan is brought back to life. But there's still the business of getting the king's daughter back, as they try to break into the castle and get her out. They dress up in their commando makeup that still doesn't seem to camouflage anything.
Well, I mean, they didn't seem to notice them till later, so I guess it did work. But of course you would have had to see the movie to know that. I'm just saying.
But what do I know? As they sneak into the palace where some sort of strange orgy is going on. Well, that's just silly.
Not really, because Thulsa is supposed to be the last person from his dying race, or that is what's supposed to be the case anyway. And they're beings of magic. And, you know, there's a reason why snakes are on the iconography of everything, because it's like a snake wizard or something like that. The one thing I really hate about this criticism, too, is that as somebody that really appreciates practical effects in film and media, that the transformations in An American Werewolf in London, that the transformations in The Thing, all these sort of rubbery latex transformations and these horrible body malformities that just happen throughout these movies, they're silly, look how rubbery and stuff they look. It's like, no, to make these processes look organic and natural are very complicated. I prefer that over some sort of goofy CG that makes it just look so cartoonish. At least I feel like, oh, his skin is stretching, that his whole biology is just shifting on a molecular level. At least I feel that to some degree. I will give Doug this. It does sort of just happen. There isn't too much of a build-up toward it, but at least his transformation anyway. The fact that he's sort of magical is implied even at the start of the movie with Conan's mom, but we'll get into that a little bit later here. I don't know, it just seems to me that Doug doesn't seem to appreciate, or at least acknowledge, yeah, you know what, this is a very interesting transformation. But then again, Doug's made jokes about things for no reason. He's just sort of lobbed jokes out just everywhere he can, just for the sake of comedy. It's like many of them are really unrelated, or they just don't seem to fit very well. They feel very tacked on, and I feel like if he was going to make jokes about the movie, there are just so many other places he could do it and have them make sense. But he just He just didn't. No one said that these would be smart reviews. No one said they'd be funny either.
Does he do this often? Is Thursday night just snake night? Oh well, no time to question logic now. We've got a princess to save.
That's a special tool we'll be using later.
They take her away from the palace as James Earl Jones finally comes to his senses.
Guys, I told you to watch the place. Well, I was a snake. Can't a guy just be a snake for 5 minutes without something going wrong?
So he gets out his bow and, I'm totally serious here, he fires a snake at them. You know, guy, I can see you have sort of a snake motif going on here, but you don't have to use it for everything. Just use a friggin' arrow. I mean, what, do you brush your teeth with snakes? Comb your hair with snakes? God help us if he actually has a snake condom, that'd just be insane.
Just shut the fuck up!
So the woman sadly dies as the rest of them get ready for the big battle.
He doesn't even remember Valera's name. You know, Valera? Especially when she's the love interest for Conan? If the Nostalgia Critic is here to remember it so I don't have to, and he can't even remember the names of main characters, that doesn't seem like the kind of person I want remembering shit.
They do this by setting up the Flintstone equivalent of Home Alone traps.
Crom, I've never prayed you before. All that matters is that two stood against many. That's what's important. Balor pleases you, Crom.
Bad news, I'm afraid. Your prayer accidentally got intercepted by R. Crumb, the perverted cartoonist.
I was sexually attracted to Bugs Bunny, and I cut out this Bugs Bunny off the cover of a comic book and carried it around with me.
So grant me one request. Grant me revenge. And if you do not listen, then to hell with you.
Wow, that's like the most backhanded prayer I ever heard in my life. Give me what I want, and if not, fuck you. Do you think he'll just pray for everything like that from now on? Oh, Crumb, please let my Happy Meal contain either Alvin, Simon, or Theodore from the Alvin and the Chipmunks Collector's series, but do not put in any chipettes. I do not like the chipettes. God help you if there's any chipettes in there! And if there is a chipette, then to hell with you! To hell with you! So with his spear magic helmet, he fights off all the bad guys along with his friends.
Gah! Fell for the oldest trick in the book! Hitting a helmet, which I thought was you, triggering a rock, activating a spear that stabbed me in the chest. Damn, you're good!
He even gets help from beyond the grave, apparently.
Who are you to fucking make the joke? She even mentions earlier in the movie that if she were to die, she would come back to life to save him.
All the gods, they cannot sever us. If I were dead and you still fighting for life, I'd come back from the darkness, back from the pit of hell, to fight at your side.
Oh well, no time to question logic now. So he wins the battle as all the bad guys flee back to the palace. They snap the princess to her senses as she agrees to show Conan how to sneak into the fortress and finally kill James Earl Jones.
Burn you the way to paradise!
My child, you have come to me, my son. Who gave you the will to live? What will your world be without me, my son?
Well, gee, when you put it like that, fuck you! Ow, 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 ow.
So I guess this somehow breaks the spell they're all under. I didn't even know they were under a spell.
Okay, so a few things about that. Yeah, if you were to follow Jesus Christ. And Jesus is the Son of God, who could perform miracles and promised you great things and was revered as this almost godly figure. And some big guy with no shirt on and a broken sword decapitates him just then and there as if it's nothing. I don't know. It seems pretty suspicious to me. It wouldn't seem very godly to me. I'm just saying. It's almost like everything he was saying to me might have been a lie.
As Conan burns down the palace and builds up some hype for the sequel.
In time, he became a king by his own hand. This story shall also be told.
Very poorly in Conan the Destroyer.
Oh my god, did he watch the movie? Do you think he writes scripts? Honestly, how do you think he makes these videos? I'm genuinely curious. There's so much wrong. It's like he turned on a camera without white balancing it in a room without a microphone. And he just started making jokes about the chipettes and Arnold's teeth and details about the movie that you would have known about if you had just seen it. So do you think he writes these scripts? Do you think he has a screen that he just sort of turns on and off and he just sort of skips ahead to different parts and he's like, oh yeah, you know, I have the Wikipedia summary here, but you know, all those extra details on the summary, I'm just gonna forego that and take whatever I need to make a video that's about 15 minutes or so long, and oh yeah, and I want monetization and give me money. All right, so there's a few things, especially about the ending scene. If Doug had watched the movie and understood what the movie's about, then he would know that the ending scene is incredibly important. He takes the broken sword, the sword his father told him that he could rely on, but the steel of the sword that his father was pointing to breaks. Later on in the movie, wielding that same broken sword, Conan approaches Thulsa Doom, and Thulsa Doom sort of moves with this sort of serpent-like motion, which is oddly enough the very same thing that he did to his mother. He's doing that sort of like, Jungle Book thing with the eyes. And if you look at his performance, he plays it off exactly like that. As he's hypnotizing Conan, he gets overcome by the spell, but as his eyes gravitate slowly down to the sword, the same sundered sword of his father, it is through his will alone that he breaks the spell, and with the broken steel, still manages to defeat Thulsa Doom. Because at the end of the day, what does not kill you makes you stronger. Steel and flesh are not independent ideologies. They go hand in hand, pushed forward by raw conviction. And if you look at that in the movie, and if you frame the entire movie underneath that lens, you see how it all connects, how all of the things that Conan endures connect to that philosophy. And it's so disappointing to watch Doug do this. In the end, Doug Walker made a very bad review. It doesn't address any key points about the movie, make any sort of valid criticism, or even any sort of interesting criticism about any aspect of the movie. It seems like he completely ignored the cinematography, the sweeping score, the brilliant performances, the gory, intense, and really grounded action, or some of the interesting philosophical questions that the movie puts forward. Even if you put forward, hey, this is not about him reviewing a movie, it's supposed to be entertaining, it's just supposed to be funny. It's not even funny. It doesn't even act as a good riff. There are whole things that he pokes fun at for no reason, jokes that he runs into the ground that just aren't funny. And there are whole aspects of the movie he could have made fun of, but he just didn't. Like, for instance, when he meets the witch, this lady looks like she belongs in the 1960s Caveman with Ringo Starr. And yet he decided, oh no, I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to make an Avatar joke because there's a blue filter. I'm going to make a joke about the chipettes.
To hell with you!
So yeah, everything about his review is wrong. Even if you don't look at the philosophies or the more deeper meanings behind things in the movie, there's still a lot really good about it. And I think Doug completely misses the point entirely. I don't know. I watched this and it made me infuriated. It made me angry. I often don't get angry when I watch a video, and this really just did it for me. This really took the cake. So yeah, that's Doug Walker's video, and this is sort of my response to it. Yeah. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you want more sort of content of this nature, or even some of my future reviews coming up pretty soon, be sure to subscribe. Yeah, oh yeah, I forgot to do this.